So there I was, just like a normal person, hanging out, looking at a very curious station here in Australia, and just like any normal person, drawing lines across the world at particular angles and seeing what I can see. And I come across this tiny little place called, and forgive me if I butcher the pronunciation, but it's Xieyang Island here. And I think I've never once considered the fact that China has islands. And here's two of them right here. This one looking particularly comical to me and interesting. And so I kind of dive in. And what I found here was quite remarkable. So I thought I would share. Again, I apologize if I butchered the names here, but I went on a pretty extensive search here, trying to see what exactly I could find out about this little place, this Weizhou Island. Most information I found was on the travel site, while the smaller one, Xieyang, somehow allegedly appearing like a goat, though I don't really see that. What I did learn is that the Weizhou Island is the largest volcanic island in China, often known as Fairy Island for its picturesque scenery. I found an article here about them trying to adapt wind power in 1985, here in a magazine here, talking about walls and terraces formed by rocks. Pillars and terraces, creating an ocean fairyland. Allegedly found it to be an underwhelming attraction. These minutes here, we have talk of flooding, which happened in 1982. Here about Vietnamese refugees trying to jump ship to Hong Kong via the island in 93. Kind of bottom of the barrel as far as this goes. The first offshore oil field here was going in operation in 86. They had some success, and so Chinese and French companies sunk 6 more wells during China's little mini oil boom. But other than that, information was very difficult to find. So why am I calling it to your attention? Well, because of this. This here 4-pronged tower, the same as we'd find anywhere else on Earth. Allegedly built by French missionaries, yet still I see some of the sort of barely veiled iconography, the same type of stonework as everywhere else in the world. We even have the same stripes, and it's allegedly made out of a type of coral and stone. And this is an island that has a population of 10,000 people at the most, currently. And we're supposed to believe that France had enough men to spare to even come to this tiny island and build not one, but 2 cathedrals such as this on this tiny island. And I call BS. So then I started looking around a little bit here. And keep in mind, I don't know anything. I'm just looking, just like anyone else. But it seems to me like there's more going on to this island than the local history would have you believe, with strange little doorway openings like this, a little too square for my comfort. Then you have this area, and I don't claim to know what this is, I have my doubts that any rock would erode in such a fashion. Almost looking like the angled edge of a star fort or something, and the water having just worn these stones smooth. Also, all this flat here, which is something that you see repeatedly. This one even has what appears to be a beveled edge on this stone. Here you have, down on the coastline, what looks like the remains of an old wall. I mean, it looks like a castle wall. See the little crenellations here? It's definitely a man-made block. And look at this one here. This one looks like, to my brain, like this is clearly an arched opening. I mean, that angle right there, looking far too symmetrical to be natural. It made me question this entire island, as if it wasn't just a massive fort or something that just was submerged in mud and or rock, and it's part of the old empire. Here you see, this looks like that same entrance, but you've got these sharp slabs that look like, and okay, maybe it's volcanic, maybe. I mean, I know that's the official story, but I guess if I'm to believe that France had enough men to send everywhere that were also masters of their craft, they could also construct these insane cathedrals. Am I to believe that France had that many men that were master artisans? They could just literally send them anywhere and they'd build out of any materials available, hundreds of years old cathedral? I mean, I doubt it. This, to me, looking very suspiciously like a forest that has been cut down. I mean, these are just sheared off. And again, sure, this could be erosion over millions of years, I suppose, but it's not what it looks like to me. This looks like a former forest that was just wiped out with some massive machinery. Or possibly like an asphalt or like a concrete slab that was just eroded away. But you've got these sort of what look like little, I don't know, see even here, looking just a little too strangely uniform, some of this. And then there's the old town. And this looks just like every other downtown, old town in America or Europe. Are we to believe that French missionaries built these as well? This is the beach there, or the beaches there is just coated in coral and shells. God, I love Chinese translations. The swimming life-saving facility is the non-swimming area. The swimmer consequences proud secretly. I think I get your drift. There's no lifeguard. Here's some of the living coral. And this is one of the other cathedrals. Very strange statue here. Can't say I'm a fan of that one. What, no horsemen? You've got these little natural bridges here. You've got all this brickwork. These are very small islands, keep in mind. Here, brick infill. And these 100-year-old homes. At least. Here's your little archway. Now, maybe it's just me, but this doesn't look like no volcanic rock. This looks like a brick building, or tower, that has been submerged in water. I mean, there's no way that's not just brick. I mean, even here you can see the square angles. And we're told this is volcanic outcropping. I mean, look, you see the uniform holes here over on this section. This is just, to me, obviously a brick building that's been worn away from water and kind of melded together. And down here, the base, it's brick again. I mean, you can see the pink coming through. And even that looks like a cladding. So I don't know what's going on here, but this looks like brick flooring, like a brick tower that is pancaked. And each layer kind of fell on each other. I don't know, it just doesn't look very volcanic to me. I know I'm not doubting Thomas or whatever. Of course I'm a skeptic. This is the island from a distance, and it looks almost like a ship or a massive structure, like a castle that is just sunken in on one side, or a massive shipwreck. And this one over here as well, not looking normal. You got these flat stones here, more blocks, as if there's a lot more here than they tell you. See inside the courtyard here. Now I wonder where they found all these perfectly good square blocks. They cut them? Probably highly doubtful. This is not exactly a wealthy area. Most of the road street traffic is hand ox carts. Here you've got more interesting looking rock, almost looking like there's layers or tracks in it in some cases, like it was mud and ash that had something dragged through it, and it just got covered up with sand and silt, and eventually the sand and the silt just sunk, just replaced and sort of mummified or petrified the material, and you're left with this. And the wood rots out, so if there's any posts in it, it leaves these vacancies. Just saying, that's what it looks like to me. Again, you've got all these flat stones here, like a wall collapsed here, or something was broken, or even a bridge, perhaps. Here's your lighthouse, and of course, you can't forget the cannon, the battery, right. And here it looks like we're using old material to kind of rebuild this wall here, like you just sort of gathered it up, probably without even thinking about it. This is a different island in the area called Beihai, or actually it might be a city on one of these islands, I'm not sure. But the architecture looking quite familiar. In the middle, you've got your fountain in town square, just like we would expect, complete with sculpture of a woman holding an orb, a mermaid holding an orb. Old brickwork here, and I couldn't find any information about a brickyard that was here. Here's a pagoda, the custom flair, cultural stylistic differences. And of course, even here too, we just cannot resist, can we? The old horseman statue right in town square. This is the center of the cultural center. Gotta nurture that culture. This is a place called Moon Hill. And I just can't help but see massive tree trunks, like a mini forest, like a forest of massive trees. Maybe they're just mountains, maybe they're old towers and skyscrapers, but they don't look like that to me. I see no reason to assume that they are constructed, from this picture anyway, looking more to me like possible trees that were broken off. And this Moon Hill, you really think that this is not man-made? I mean, this is like a massively thick arch that was underwater or packed in mud or whatever for who God knows how long. And as it's slowly coming out, waters recede or whatever, this is what you're left with. All the rust, the iron oxide coming to the surface here. Just can't imagine that forming perfectly like this. Kind of ridiculous. Give you an idea of the scale of it. These looking to me like they are, what are they called, rusticles on those shipwrecks? Very suspicious place. I mean, these spikes here, this is ridiculous. This translates to the land of idyllic beauty. This is Xieyang Weizhou. Here on Scriptopedia, we're told about that time that we all remember, 225, well, between 9 and 225 million years ago, of course. That's safe to say. Totally provable. And this is kind of interesting. The third time, from 200,000 to 15,000 years ago, again, ridiculous range, large amounts of volcanic bombs. Interesting, weird way to put that. And the fourth time, from 10,000 to 7,000 years ago, a few eruptions, bombs, and ash. Here we're told the French built a Gothic-style Catholic church in the village in 1880. Why? Who knows? Shallow waters around the islands, possibly because it's just flooded land underneath. But what do I know? In this Gulf of Tonkin, Miss Bikini of the Universe is an annual beauty pageant.
No touching, no tasting.
Maybe I've lost my mind. Maybe I am seeing things that just aren't there. Look at the angle of some of these stones. It's just straight edge. And this cut in here. Look at this cut right here. This is like a concrete slab with an expansion joint. Look at that thing. As far as I know, rock does not do this. Perfect T. This is like a slab that has been submerged in water and is reverting back to whence it came from. This one almost looking like it was a standing structure that just fell over on its side. What is this? Like a track in it? It's like a collapsed hilltop? I'm trying to imagine just a devastating natural disaster here. One that would maybe engulf everything in mud, and whatever stone remained after all the wood and organic material sort of rotted out. There you have... We're just gonna blame volcanoes. No, tell me what you think. Maybe I've gone off me a rocker. This is pretty amazing. There's a scenic spot called a Drippy Red Screen. There's a few more shots of the old towers or trees or buildings, whichever you prefer, or just mountains. A stunningly beautiful place. 50 years ago, what it looked like. Here's just an example of how they would alternate layers here, so you could see how some of those mountains could be simply collapsed versions of these. Some little satellite imagery here. Let's see what it's like to be on the local level. Yeah, see? And we have some very interesting looking walls here. And brick, of course, utilized very creatively. Looking as if they've been used before. Some of these stuck together still. And decent manhole covers. Like this little lock key thing. Never seen that before. You'd almost sucker for a good manhole cover. Here we are on the beach. Kind of a strange little beach here. See that angle right there? Just doesn't seem natural to me. Ooh, what do I know? I don't know nothing.
At least I'm out doing things.
Find that to be strange. Wow, perfect. This giving the impression that this whole thing is made of wood, petrified wood. So maybe these were massive trees that fell and or were cut down. Maybe you got some sap or something here. Hell, I don't know. They won't let you get close to this one, will they? Anyway, no matter where you go, it's just the same story everywhere. What that story is, I guess, is up for debate, but you never know what you're going to stumble across in this crazy world. And as ever, I will see you soon.